Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel again. Here betomoedano with another video. And with all the hype that is going on right now in the tech world with the artificial intelligence things like ChatGPT and Dolly, I thought maybe I should create a video showing how to use the new OpenAI API, which allows developers to basically use the models that OpenAI has for creating images or for creating text, fixing code, and there's a bunch of things that we can do. But in this tutorial, we're gonna learn how to create an image generator. You can see here that if we enter this input horse with wings, we have this nice loading message, and after a couple of seconds, we have a new generated image with OpenAI API, right? And each time we generate the same input, we're gonna get a different image, which is really cool because that assures that the users are going to get different things every time, right? In this case, if I change this to be a dog with wings, this is the result. And let's start, guys. So the first thing that you need to do in order to follow this video is to go to beta.openai.com, and you're gonna need to create a new account, a developer account, and you have to pay for this API. Although if it's the first time that you're using OpenAI APIs, you're gonna get like $18 of free requests. But you can always go to pricing and check in whatever you want to do. In this case, if we check the image models, in this case, in this tutorial, we're gonna be creating images of 512 by 512 pixels. So that is roughly 2 cents per image, which is not too bad considering that you are getting a different image each time. And if you want to make a 1024 by 1024, it's gonna be 2 cents per image. It's basically the same price. But yeah, guys, so also they have models for language. You can see down here they have Ada, Babel, and other things, but in this tutorial we're just gonna be sticking with the image generator. And if you go to your account once you create it, you can see that I have used already 50 cents of $1, and I'm paying for this. my free requests are expired, so I had to put my credit card. But still, it's really nice to learn how these things works, and the things that you can generate with these are really nice. So without further ado, guys, once you create your account, you can see here your usage, and also you can see the settings, members, and billing. And one important thing that we're gonna be using and we need to make this application, it's API keys. So once you have your account, you can even go to examples, playgrounds, and in these examples we're gonna see that we have answers, classification, code, conversation, generation, translation, and transformation. So you can play around with these examples and get inspired to build your own product. Although I would recommend that you try to monetize this because it is expensive. The one that I really liked is the Mobi to emoji. Basically, you enter a prompt and you get the history with emojis. For example, Back to the Future, we get those emojis, and the clock, and for example, Batman as well. We get the bat and the man, which is really nice. All right, so once we have that, we're gonna go to our profile and let's choose API keys. And here, guys, it's very important that when you create a new secret key, you're gonna need to copy that. You're gonna get a modal view, and then you're gonna copy your key. Once you copy your key, you're not going to be able to copy it again. So be sure that you save it in a safe place. And of course, be careful to don't put that API key on GitHub, for example, because everyone else can use it to generate images, for example, right? So once you create your key, just copy your key, and we're gonna be using it later, okay? So now let's start. I'm going to create a new React application. So we're going to be using React and Vite to create this application. So the command that we're going to be using is yarn create Vite, and let's hit enter. We need to wait a little bit. Usually Vite is very fast. Now we need a project name. In this case, I'm going to call it image generator, and let's hit enter. And here we can use the framework that we want to use, in this case React, and the programming language, in this case JavaScript. Nice. Now that we have that, let's cd into image generator. Once we are in this folder, we can start installing dependencies. But before we do that, I want to install OpenAI. So I'm going to say yarn add OpenAI, which is basically the library that is going to allow us to connect to their API. Then just to make sure that I have all the dependencies, I'm going to run yarn. Then we can open this on Visual Studio Code by running code dot. Nice. Now that we have this in Visual Studio, we can run the command yarn dev, and we're going to have this server with our new application. Here in this side, we can see that we have app.js, and basically just a simple application. And let's start by removing all this code that we're not gonna be using. Let's just leave this div container and put a new header that says image generator, and it's going to look something like this. Nice. Now I'm going to delete this line as well. The second thing that we want to do is create a new file, and this is going to be .env file. In this file, we're going to save the API key that we just got from openai.com or .dev. And then basically, guys, so you have to paste your environment variable in this file, and then you can use it in here by saying console log, for example, import.meta.resolve, import.meta.env, and then .myAPI, right? Now, if we save this and go to the console on this side, we see that the value of this variable is undefined, and the reason is because we are using Vite, we need to say Vite at the beginning here. So Vite myAPI, and then we need to rename this console log here, Vite. This way, we are granting access to the environment variables. So now you can put here your API key, and you're gonna have access in the code, right? So now I'm just gonna paste mine. Of course, I'm going to cut this so you don't see it. But yeah, once you have your key here, you're gonna be good to go, right? So let's go back to the api.jsx, and in here, we can now use our API. Perfect. So the first thing that we need to do is just delete this use state that comes by default. And this import of use state, I'm gonna leave it because we're gonna need some state in a moment. Okay, now we're gonna start by importing some things from OpenAI. The first one is going to be import from, I'm gonna open curly braces like this, from OpenAI, which is the library that we just installed. We're going to import configuration and OpenAI API. Nice. Once we have those, we can start the instance of our configuration by saying const configuration. And for this configuration, we're gonna need our API key. So I'm gonna say new configuration like this, open parentheses, curly braces, and now we need to specify the API key. And now we can just copy this code that we have here. Perfect. Now that we have that, we can say const OpenAI, which is going to be the instance of everything that we can use from OpenAI. So let's say new OpenAI API and pass the configuration as an argument like this. Once we have that, we can use OpenAI like this. I'm going to create a function that is going to basically generate an image. So we are gonna need to make this function async. So async function, and I'm gonna name it fetch data. You can name it like for example, generate image or make a request, something like that. Perfect. Now that we have this, I'm going to put all the logic or the request inside a try catch. That way, if we have an error, we can catch it and put it on console by saying catch error, console log error, right? Now inside this try, we can actually make the request. So I'm gonna save the response inside a response variable, and then we can await, call OpenAI dot, and here it's an important thing, guys. We have all these methods that we can use from OpenAI to do basically whatever we want. In this case, we're going to be creating an image, but you can also create a file, create an image edit. Your imagination is the limit. Okay, now create image is going to take an object of attributes or settings in which we can specify the prompt of the image that we want to generate. In this case, I'm going to hard code one prompt, and it's going to be cat with wings. Nice. Now there's a couple more things that we need to specify. The second one is going to be n, which is number, and if I hover over this n, we're gonna see that it's the number of images that we want to generate. Must be between 1 and 10. In this case, I'm just gonna generate 1. Although I'm not sure if we generate 10 images, are they going to charge us like 2 cents per image? I'm not sure, so I'm just gonna leave it at 1 at this point. And finally, we need to specify the size of the image. In this case, we're gonna be using 512 by 512. Nice. Remember that if you want to use 1024, you need to pay 2 cents, and it's basically the same price, so I don't think you need to worry too much about that. Now let's put on console this response. I have already seen this object that we are going to get in the response, so that's why I'm saying response.data.data at position0.url. But you can console log the whole object so you can explore it. But basically, what we want is the URL, right? So now I'm going to open my terminal again and run this function. So I'm going to create a button inside my return, and this button is going to be call generate, just generate for now. I'm going to add a on click event like this, and whenever the user clicks this button, we are going to fetch data, which is the name of our function. Now let's try to generate, and after a couple of seconds we get this response, which is the URL of the new image, and even we can just open it like this. Now we want to show this image to the user, so we're gonna need some state in this application. So inside this function, I'm gonna say const image and set image. We're gonna be using useState from React, and I'm going to initialize this image to be an empty string. Or even better, if we go back to the console, we can copy this link that we already generated, and we can put that as a default value for the image. That way we don't have to worry that we're not going to have an image at the first loading time. So now we're gonna need also a couple more variables, because it takes like 3 to 5 seconds, at least for me, to load images. I'm going to need a variable to let the user know that it's loading. So we're gonna use useState as well, and we're going to initialize this variable is loading to be false. Also, we're gonna need to get the prompt from the user. So let's say that in another useState variable and initialize it to be an empty string. Nice. Once we have that, instead of having this hard-coded prompt in the request, we can use the prompt that the user is going to put, right? Now, instead of console log this response, we can set the image of our useState like this. Good. Now, let's show this image in here. I'm going to create an image tag and close it like this. The source is going to be equal to image, which is our variable. If I hit save now, we're gonna get the first cat that we generated. Good. Now, we're also gonna need to add the isLoading logic here, but before we do that, I'm going to put this inside a div, and you're gonna see why in a moment. Now, I'm going to create another div here, and I'm going to put all the controls and input inside this div. So the input is going to have a placeholder that is going to say enter your prompt. Nice. Now let's change the style of this input because it's a little bit ugly. So if we go back to the index.css file, we can see that we already have this style for the button. So I'm just going to add the input to this class, and now we get this nice style for the input as well. Now we can go back to the app.jsx and put the button to the right of the input like this, and basically we can just add a little bit more of styles. Down here I'm going to add a style for the image. So this image, I'm going to add a border radius of 8 pixels and a margin just to have a little bit of space between the controls and the image. So I want to say 1 rem like this. Good. It's looking good. Now we can come back to the app.jsx again, and inside this input, whenever the user enters some text or in the onChange event, we are going to set the prompt. So we're going to get an event, let's say it's set prompt with the event.target.value. There we go. Good. Now let's try to see if this works. Before I do that, let's make sure that we're adding the prompt to the fetch function. And it seems that it's working. Now I need to add the isLoading logic, remember guys? So inside this div where we have the image, we're gonna check if it's loading. If it's loading, we are going to show a message that says that it's loading. Otherwise, we're going to show the image, right? So inside this fragment, let's create a p tag that says loading and another p tag that says please wait until your image is ready, right? Good. Now that we have that, there's another thing that we need to do inside this fetch data function. We need to set the isLoading variable to be true before we start the request. So let's say set isLoading equal to true, and after the request is fulfilled, or this promise is fulfilled, we can set isLoading equal to false, and in the case we have an error, we need to set isLoading to false as well, right? So now let's try another thing. Let's try a horse with wings, for example. Let's hit generate, and we have this loading. Please wait until your image is ready. And after a couple of seconds, we get this horse with wings, which is really nice. Perfect. So now, if I hit generate, you can see that it's jumping, right? All our UI is jumping because the image is disappearing. So to fix that, that's why we added this div. And I'm going to add this in line. So I'm gonna give it a 512 by 512 to this div, so we don't get that jumpy when we generate a new image. So as you can see here, it is not jumping anymore. But yeah, of course you can add another class name instead of having it inline. But yeah, and which is really cool for me is that we can generate a new image every time we hit on generate. But yeah guys, this is basically what I wanted to show you. If you like this video, please give it a like. Don't forget to subscribe as well. Let me know in the comments if you like this video, if you want to see more content similar to this one. Remember that you need to create your API key and all that, and you can keep track of how much money you have spent In this case, you can see that I have 76 cents, and this is in dollars, right? So USD. Yeah, so be careful, guys, with this, of course, and have fun. Let's try to generate another image for before we go. Cat with wings. And let's try to generate another fun thing before we finish this video. Let's say cat with a computer programming. Let's hit generate, wait for it, and there we go. All right, guys, so I hope you liked this video. I hope you learned something new, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, bye.